Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, a particularly interesting episode. I'm so excited because we're living in a deceptively complex world with streaming services and the stonk market. I'm going to break it all down for you. All right, so Friday was a banner day for Warner Media's streaming service, which is a tortoise running a race against a whole bunch of hares. But remember, the tortoise is the one who ended up winning the race. Now, the usual response to that would be, I don't know if anyone can beat Disney. Well, this past Christmas, HBO Max did. Yes, week after week, I've had to put an asterisk on the Nielsen ratings when I report them to you, reminding you that the company does not monitor HBO Max. Well, HBO Max was like, we're tired. I mean, I'm sure they were looking, they might just be tired in general, but I think HBO Max was looking at their internal data and they were like, we would be competitive here if only Nielsen would get on this. So I'm sure HBO Max was like, cover us. And I also think they nudged them to release the report that they did on Friday, which was picked up by all the trades. Although, interestingly, Nielsen never updated their actual website, which is a little weird. But anyway, they did release a report that amended their Christmas week chart. Nielsen does their ratings by week instead of weekend. Can you imagine redoing a weekend box office chart, creating a new number one after the fact? I mean, you know if it's a photo finish like on Sunday and maybe on Monday there's a little bit of a change. But this to me is incredible. And it just shows how much streaming is still very much the wild, wild west. And I'm sure Disney is not happy. That's because not only was their huge win with Soul taken away from them, but now Wonder Woman 1984 has the huge win. They topped the 2 billion minutes mark when it came to streaming. So that's incredible. To have HBO Max suddenly come roaring to life like this, I'm sure certainly not only has spooked Disney, but sent a shiver up Netflix's spine as well. As just like that, they've now lost 3 spots in the top 10. What might be around the corner? This is yet another sign that Warner Brothers plan to release their 2021 slate simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max is a solid one. I'm not willing to call it a great plan just yet. I'm calling it solid right now. Now, their next movie to do this is The Little Things, which hit the streaming service on Friday, with HBO Max not only reporting that the movie shot to number 1 on their service immediately upon release, but it actually trended on Twitter on Friday night as well, along with WandaVision, which had been trending all day. It's interesting. This is really fascinating to me. Everything today's report I find really interesting, but this is really cool to point out. So the other stuff is like, this might be bad, but this is like this point is like just fun. So TV always trends, right? And Disney Plus, because they debut their content at frickin' 3 a.m. in the morning, it tends to trend right when it drops and in the early morning when everyone's watching it with breakfast, for people who do that. And then it trends again later in the day when everyone watches it as evening entertainment. I don't know how all those people avoided spoilers. Maybe they don't mind spoilers. But so that's the pattern we've seen emerge for the Disney Plus content. Now, The Little Things is a new movie. So of course everybody wants to watch it in the evening. They're not going to, depending on the movie. Some people will obviously watch it as soon as it drops with, other fare. But for a movie like this, people made it an appointment viewing for their Friday night. And it trended. Now, sometimes the theatrical release in normal times would have trended as well. But that was rare. It was very unusual. I've rarely seen a movie trend unless it's like the new big Marvel movie, like Deadpool trended when it was released. But usually, it's a different type of experience. And, you're not sitting at home with your phone right in front of you, so you don't, people like to tweet while they watch too. So suddenly you have major films that are being released simultaneously on streaming services trending like TV shows, which I think is, as I said, a very interesting development. And I'm sure very nice for these projects. But what's also interesting it's maybe bad kind of way, is that while dominating the Nielsen top 10 is a nice feather and HBO Max is still relatively bare cap, it doesn't mean anything money-wise, right? This isn't like the box office where you're talking about ticket sales, like number 1 movie sold the most tickets. It's, streaming services have a different criteria for success. So if we're going to start really looking at them, you guys have to start to acclimate yourself to the new rules. We have to be able to put on our box office theatrical caps and our streaming services caps. So Wonder Woman 1984 and Soul are both available at no extra cost to subscribers. This isn't like Mulan or the upcoming Raya and the Last Dragon. So even if people watch Wonder Woman 1984 a gabillion times, it's still just one subscription, or, depending on how many people in your family use the same subscriber account, or, group of friends, it's still just, people aren't paying for each viewing like they would a movie in a theatrical release. So the real question is, how many new subscribers does this content generate, and how many subscribers does it keep on the service? The name of the game in in streaming services is to make sure that you either subscribe or you don't drop your subscription. They don't want you to ride subscription. So that's the two most important things about any content. And that's why sometimes Netflix will cancel a show that might be popular, but it's not moving the needle in terms of subscriptions. And so Netflix feels that it's not worth their money to keep it going. So, what we used to value as success is not the same criteria anymore. So, what really matters with this headline, the Nielsen headline of being number one, is, does that get more people to subscribe? People maybe who didn't subscribe go, oh, well, look how popular Wonder Woman 1984 was that week. Maybe I should get HBO Max, even though it's not available on the service anymore. These Nielsen things come out too damn late. But although it would have been available if they would have been counting HBO Max, because this was an amended list. So they would have just made it. So that's going forward, that will help them. And then also, how does it make Wall Street feel any better about the company? And don't worry, we'll be talking about Wall Street and AMC momentarily. But that's what a Nielsen headline like this really matters. Does it get new people to subscribe? And does it give confidence in the HBO Max and therefore AT&T stock, because that's it doesn't have its own stock? Does that give investors in Wall Street confidence in AT&T's overall plan? So, as I said, it's different and very interesting. HBO Max is still way behind when it comes to subscribers. We just got their new subscriber number, and they haven't been able to change their momentum even with the addition of Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman 1984 blew every movie and show on streaming away, but their subscriber growth over on HBO Max is still going steady. It doubles every 3 months, as we discussed late last week. But, I think where maybe Wonder Woman 1984 did shine based on this new information is that people who were subscribed or the people who did join on watched Wonder Woman 1984 a lot, right? Think about it. Soul has more subscribers than HBO Max. So for Wonder Woman 1984 to beat the movie out so substantially that week, it is a little longer too. I think it's about an hour longer also. So that helps it in terms of minutes, and that means that people were watching it more often that week. So I'm curious, for those of you who watched Soul and Wonder Woman 1984 the week of release, how much did you watch each of them, right? So that's the value there. That's the value, that it would keep subscribers on and keep them happy. Now, as we discussed late last week in that same report, HBO Max will soon be hitting Latin America and parts of Europe and the Middle East later this year. So then, if it starts to close in on Disney Plus numbers, and Disney Plus does not release country breakdowns, so we have no idea how many domestic subscribers Disney Plus has, then we'll start to really know what's going on. And if HBO Max is really starting to be competitive. I think the 1-2 punch of the Snyder Cut and Godzilla vs. Kong in March will really help a lot. Because The Little Things is yet another not great movie, which understandably still can't really move that needle. It keeps audiences complacent for the most part, and like, okay, I'll stay subscribed, but no one's like, oh my gosh, I saw even the people who were tweeting about it for the most part were like, meh, and Jared Leto really needs another shot at the Joker. I told you that was my takeaway too when I watched the movie. Because audiences who went to see the movie in theaters, we got a cinema score for it, they gave it a B-. That's Denzel Washington's lowest cinema score, and I think maybe ever. He usually gets A's and A-, occasionally a B+. So a B- for Denzel, ouch. But did The Little Things, as we've been saying, did it keep HBO Max subscribers subscribed for another month? Did it? Did you stay subscribed so you could get this movie? My guess is for many, it did. And so therefore, again, you're starting to think like a streaming service, executive needs to think. You're like, so people didn't love The Little Things. I don't care. Did it keep them subscribed? And now, also they're trying to run an Oscar campaign for it, but that's ridiculous. All right, and now that Nielsen is monitoring HBO Max going forward, and some big movies and shows are coming up on all the major streaming services, this Nielsen chart is going to start getting a lot more interesting and competitive, instead of just like, what on Netflix is popular this week? If only they would get it out earlier than a month later. Now, as for the box office chart, which still comes out the weekend of, The Little Things did debut at number 1, a little bit bigger than the usual 4 million debuts we've been seeing consistently throughout the pandemic. So, yay! It's skewed, much older in the demographics, which I think, which is an interesting commentary on Denzel's star power and who he can consistently bring out. And also Rami Malek and Jared Leto didn't do a lot of heavy lifting with younger viewers. Wonder Woman 1984 is still dropping despite no longer being available on HBO Max. It couldn't even hold steady. But look at the Croods too. Wow! Universal has a nice, respectable, steady flow of cash going on right now. Just wait until we get to talking about iTunes. That's very impressive for Universal. But first, let's talk about AMC Stock. The new word, everybody, it's fun to say. I understand the appeal. A number of retail investors, which is what you call the little guy. It's people who are able to buy these stocks through apps, who don't have to have a broker and don't have any of the overhead or oversight that most investors usually have had in the past. So someone can go in and buy, and these stocks that people are targeting are very cheap. So you can buy one or even a couple of them and really start to move the market. And these are just individuals who are doing this. So retail investors, that's the term, are banding together to save. It's like because you go into a store, basically. You're a customer instead of going through a brokerage firm. So retail investors are banding together to save the companies they love, stick it to Wall Street, and make some money in the process. But when it comes to AMC, it was actually private equity firm Silver Lake that actually made the most money. So what happened here? Now, AMC Theaters was doing just fine. They had just raised a little over $700 million before the end of the year, which CEO Adam Aron said would get them through all of 2021. They were good, but with most theaters closed, their stock was still trading at around $4 to $5. But then AMC got swept up in the revolution, with retail investors deciding this was a stock to buy, a company to save. And on Wall Street, two things can raise the price of a stock: genuine performance by the company or demand. And this was the latter, because people on a Reddit forum have discovered that they can drive up stock by getting regular people excited about that stock through social media. No real information is needed. No, the company hasn't changed its business model. The company doesn't turned a corner. Nothing new exciting is happening to the company in terms of what they're doing. But instead, there are cool memes and slang that create a rush, and people, it's like a lemmings thing. Everyone just runs after the stock with no real idea as to why they're doing it. So since so many regular people suddenly wanted to buy AMC stock, the price started to surge. Because again, demand, someone said there's no more AMC stock to buy. So suddenly someone goes, I want to buy it for this price. And so someone goes, oh, well, that's more than I have right now. You can have mine, because sometimes a company can create new stock, but that's what's going on. So that's why the price goes up, because people are like just buying each other's stock, because there's such a mad rush on it. And as a result, Silver Lake was like, wow, suddenly everybody wants the stock we couldn't get rid of like just a few days ago. So they had $600 million sunk into the company, and they had sunk even more in during the pandemic to try and bail it out. So Silver Lake decided to seize the moment and convert their bonds into stock, which they were able to do because, again, so many people were desperate for AMC stock. So, of course, they were allowed to do it because people wanted more stock to be able to buy. And therefore, Silver Lake was able to totally get out of the movie theater business. This started to happen like on Tuesday or Wednesday. And by the end of the week, Silver Lake was out. They sold their position in AMC. They had previously had 28% of the company, and they sold all their shares for $713 million, which means they made $113 million in profit. Now, if you bought AMC stock, be sure to keep an eye on it, because performance-wise, there should be little activity from AMC until late 2021. So they're not going to do anything to either further drive the price up or to warrant its new high price. Now, the only major company that's still invested at AMC now, after Silver Lake said see ya, is China's Wanda Group at 38%. So there's no major Wall Street players like Silver Lake who have a vested interest in AMC stock and will work to protect it. Now, basically, AMC is owned by a lot of customers. And so, while they can band together to buy the stock, they don't really have the means to survey the market, see what's going on behind the scenes, and do those kind of moves. That means, unless every regular person who's invested at AMC stock has diamond hands, we're all learning the lingo, has diamond hands for the rest of the entire year, that AMC stock will start to drop back down to its true value of about $4 to $5, but maybe a little higher because now it has less debt. So it'll probably, I would say, settle under 10. So chances are a lot of the Reddit folks who picked AMC and promoted this stock as part of the revolution have also already cashed out. Just make sure if you're going to start playing this new game that you know the difference between getting a good tip and being used as a tool, as a lemming, to drive up the price of a stock that someone else is already sitting on, which they bought at a cheaper price right before they started to push it on social media. Because I don't think AMC stock is going to really go up anymore. I think it might hold for a little bit because people are thinking maybe it will, but I think the roller coaster on this one is done. If you can get in on these stocks right as they begin to rise, that's really the only time it's probably worth it. Otherwise, if you're even a couple of hours too late, it's not worth the overall financial risk. Also, as the New York Times pointed out in the last few days, and this is extremely important, when you're investing in the stock market, even with these low numbers, you still have to pay significant taxes on any gains. Not if it's still in your portfolio, but once you extract the money from the app and you decide, to cash out, you have to pay taxes on that money. And it's not taken out at the point of extraction. You have to hold on to it, and then the IRS comes after you when it's time to pay your taxes. So make sure that you find out how much that you would owe on your earnings and set that aside so that you don't have a problem with the IRS. Because after this stonk revolution, sometime next year, we could have a situation where a lot of people are in debt to the government. And I'm sure some of you might be like, woo, sucker, I'm not paying it. Well, good luck to you. All right, now let's take a look at what people were streaming this past week. On iTunes, as I said, Universal is doing just great. With 3 movies in the top 10, all of them still $20 48-hour rentals. The Croods 2 is still in the top 10. It popped back up in there. And speaking of Wall Street, all that talk of stonks got people in the mood to revisit or check out for the first time The Big Short and The Wolf of Wall Street. 2 very fun films. And The Big Short, both with Margot Robbie, by the way, although she has a very brief cameo only in The Big Short. But The Big Short is particularly good. The Wolf of Wall Street is fun, but you'll learn a lot about the stock market more so from The Big Short. Interestingly, The Wolf of Wall Street is a bit about like a scam, and it might kind of be a scam what's going on Wall Street right now. All right, so I think that there's probably some good motives behind what people telling people to buy stock, but I think that it might also be that these people are driving up stocks that as I said, they themselves are invested in, and so that they can make money off of it. All right, so anyway. Like if you think you're making money, the people who are making the memes are probably making way more than you. All right. Then on Netflix, Spain's action movie Below Zero debuted at number 1, while Netflix's new English language movie of the week is number 3. I watched The Dig on Friday. I thought it was super depressing. I would not recommend it. What's going on with diversity on Netflix, though, from ethnicity to language, is extremely exciting and shows that Netflix continues to be able to find new ways to stay ahead of the competition. They're like, are you coming for me? Disney Plus and HBO Max, that's fine. Although HBO Max has some interesting foreign language content as well. But, Netflix has already found a new audience to tap into and to distinguish themselves from the competition. So I think it's very impressive. Now, as for what's coming out this coming week, on Wednesday, Netflix debuts new series Firefly Lane, which I'll be interested to see how that does, although that kind of content can do quite well on the service. And then Malcolm and Marie on Friday, the very divisive film, dividing critics and audiences. It's funny, when you see Malcolm and Marie, you'll see that there is a very big speech that makes fun of critics. And I do wonder, because, I don't think the movie is necessarily worth hitting. I thought it had major flaws, and I don't know how much fun it is to watch, but I don't think it deserved to be as hit with many Rotten Tomatoes as it was. And I thought it was funny when I saw that it did get so many Rotten Tomatoes, that they did have like this very long speech, and it was a little bit of a running theme throughout, with John David Washington's character making fun of critics. So maybe that was a mistake to put in the film. But audiences aren't loving it either. They're divided as well. So I'll be curious to see where it comes, where people fall on it when it debuts. But I'm sure it'll trend. All right, so anyway, and HBO is trying to get on the foreign language programming train. As I said, they're right behind Netflix. As Sweden's The Investigation, which is about that journalist who disappeared on that submarine of that wealthy guy, That's going to debut on Monday night as part of their new international programming block because it'll air after Spain's 30 Coins, which has been airing since November. All right, so that's this week's movie math. What do you think of all this stuff? What do you think what's going on with HBO Max and streaming services? What do you think about the AMC stonks situation? What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what did you think of the little things? And what do you think of Malcolm and Marie? Share all those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.